Why he's an MMA genius. MMA's full of amazing people, but have you ever imagined who is the ace of the game, the mastermind? If not, then imagine it now, folks. And if you can't, then, well, here we are. So we are going to discuss the different MMA geniuses. Hello people, and welcome back to MMA Guru TV. Today we're going to meet you with the MMA genius. So keep watching this video to learn everything there is about it. And also make sure you subscribe to our channel so you get to watch more such videos like this. Dana White is a mastermind behind mixed martial arts, regardless of how you feel about him personally. The president of the USA has probably taken more chances than anybody else in the sport, and the vast majority of the time they have paid off for him. White is increasingly seen to be the most astute guy in the industry as the sport continues to experience expansion. So let us begin. White, in contrast to the figureheads of the majority of major sports leagues, doesn't typically have a filter, which is one of the reasons why White is one of the finest at defending the sport. Dana White's often at the forefront of putting the record right, whether it be going head-to-head with boxing's Bob Arum, or recently exposing an outside-the-line segment ESPN just filmed to debate fighter pay. In all these instances, White was attempting to set the truth straight. Given that mixed martial arts is often looked down on, its leader has little choice but to lead in a manner that is brazen, forthright, and never censored. This may not sit well with certain people. He stays in the public eye by expressing his opinions, which results in more exposure to mixed martial arts. He is aware of when it is appropriate to create stars and is aware on how to promote fights. White has a penchant for choosing the proper time to turn a fighter into a major celebrity, and it's unclear if this is down to sheer chance or pure brilliance. People may have questioned whether Anderson Silva deserved a shot at the UFC title in just his second UFC fight, or whether Brock Lesnar and Jon Jones deserved shots so early in their MMA careers. However, all three of these men were successful and went on to become enormous stars in their respective sport. People may not appreciate the UFC hype machine, but Dana White has managed to make even average competitors appear like some of the most dangerous people on the planet. He was patiently waiting for the ideal business partnership that would help the UFC and MMA advance. The partnership between the UFC and Fox has not only increased the company's visibility, but also expanded the market for mixed martial arts as a whole. Even though the transaction was in its infancy, it's been incredibly successful. After leaving Spike TV, Dana White must have been in a difficult situation when it came time to decide the future course of the Ultimate Fighting Championship. If you go in one direction instead of the other, you run the risk of giving the business you helped establish to the wrong people. If you go with another option, you run the risk of finding yourself in the same predicament as Strikeforce and Elite XC when they were shown on cable TV. However, White made the correct decision in the agreement. He's still able to operate things in the same manner that he always has, but because of Fox, he can do it on a far wider scale. He utilized all that 2011 had to offer to its fullest potential, and the UFC may have had a dreadful year in 2011. Due to injuries and other challenges that boxers were experiencing, a significant number of main events and key bouts had been postponed or canceled entirely. Big-name fighters like Nate Marquardt, Chris Lieben, and Thiago Silva have all had to deal with difficulties relating to failing drug tests, and Nick Diaz was already making a fool of himself before even fighting in the UFC last year. White overcame all of these challenges that he faced during the year and still managed to make it an unforgettable one. White made the best of what might have been a difficult year for the UFC by making last-minute adjustments to fight cards, launching UFC on Fox 1, and purchasing Strikeforce. He did all of this to maximize the positive outcomes of what could have been a negative year. He was a crucial figure in transforming a faltering business into an industry leader. In 2001, Dana White and the Fertitta brothers purchased the failing Ultimate Fighting Championship and turned it around. They had put in a lot of effort and have a lot of patience, but after a few difficult years, White and the Fertittas were able to turn things around. The corporation underwent a significant transformation as a direct result of White's vision, which led to its current state. The UFC has established itself as the preeminent brand in mixed martial arts. He is aware of the origins of the sport, and he respects them. You can tell that Dana White cares deeply about the sport because that's the way he talks about it. White's aware of the history of the sport as well as the positive and negative things that the UFC accomplished before he got control of it. White has acknowledged some of the sport's most accomplished competitors as part of the UFC and has a great deal of respect for the greats of the sport such as Royce Gracie. By doing so, White can maintain communication with the UFC fans of a more senior generation while also educating UFC fans of a younger generation about the history of MMA. He purchased the opponent on numerous occasions. White's greatest strength is in his ability to dominate the opponent in any given situation. Within the last 10 years, Zuffa has acquired several other companies, including Pride, World Extreme Cage Fighting, and, most recently, Strikeforce. Although it's possible that White took control of each of them for a different reason, all of them have been taken over. Pride was the UFC's most significant competitor, but it went out of business not long after Zuffa purchased it. The WEC remained for several years, but eventually the decision was made to combine the organization within the UFC. Whatever the future holds for Strikeforce, the majority of its top stars and champions have already made the move over to the UFC. Time will tell what happens next. In the annals of sporting history, there have been several noteworthy acquisitions and mergers. White has been the architect of several ones in mixed martial arts, and he considers what the supporters want. Dana White was the only promoter or owner of a major sports corporation that's on the same level of the fans of MMA. White's made himself a little more accessible to fans by giving them the fights they want to see, staying active on Twitter, and responding to fan questions. This makes him more approachable than, for example, David Stern and Roger Goodell, the commissioners of the NBA and NFL respectively. White is savvy enough to maintain open communication with the audience while limiting the amount of information they have access to. He is responsible for expanding the UFC's presence into new international markets. Japan, Puerto Rico, and Brazil were the only locations outside of the continental United States where the UFC held events before White's takeover of the corporation. Since then, the UFC has traveled to several countries, including the United Kingdom, Ireland, Australia, Germany, and the United Arab Emirates. If it hadn't expanded outside the borders of the United States, the UFC may not be as successful as it is now. He's willing to take dangerous chances. Let's examine some of the most significant risks that Dana White has made in his life. A dying UFC that was bought. Maintain ownership of the firm even though it was incurring ongoing financial losses. Brock Lesnar, Kimbo Slice, and James Toney were all given opportunities to compete in the UFC. Randy Couture should have been allowed to compete for a championship far into his 40s. It is suggested that Jacob Volkman and Chael Sonnen be allowed to speak on an open mic. These are only some of the dangers that White has courted during his professional life. Things have, for the most part, gone in his favor as a result of them. White may be considered a gambler due to the nature of some of the chances he takes, but when it pays out, he seems like the most astute person in the world. So, I think we're just about now done with our video. I certainly hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, please make sure you give it a big thumbs up, like it, and share it with all your friends and family and the other MMA fighting fans you have in your inner circle. What do you think about Dana White? It really does seem like he's one of these people that is a love-hate relationship with the fans. There isn't many in the middle ground. You either love the guy or you hate the guy, but whatever your opinion is, you got to respect him for really having a lot of vision to help UFC be what it is today. Hey, let us know your opinion on the comments below. Also, make sure you subscribe to our channel so you watch more videos just like this one, and hit that bell icon on your way out the door. That way you are always notified of all of our latest videos when they're uploaded. Thanks for spending time out of your busy day to hang out with us today, and we look forward to seeing you in our next video. Have a great rest of your day, and thanks for watching.